some of the keys offensively as to really getting a rhythm.
Go out for Jokic, Jamal, all the bad defenders, Tim Hardaway, Cam Johnson, Aaron Gordon, the whole team. Like, just go at them.
They're all bad defenders.
Yeah, they're all bad defenders.
So, my prediction about the Timberwolves beating the Nuggets might not be too crazy. You know, I felt like it was like a pretty like a consensus thing from a lot of people outside of like maybe a couple of fans and then obviously Timberwolves fans that the Nuggets were going to win this series. I'm not a very big believer in the Nuggets this year. I never really got a chance to make a video on that, on why I'm not a fan, but you know, I've got a couple reasons. But first, let's talk about the game. So game 2 for the Timberwolves was yesterday, as of this recording, and the Timberwolves looked really good. You know, they started off behind. You know, the Nuggets were hitting a lot of really crazy threes. There was like 3 straight 4-point plays the Nuggets got. Jamal Murray couldn't miss at first. You know, it was just kind of getting stomped on. And at one point I was thinking like, dang, is this really about to be like a 5-game series? Like, if the Nuggets are just gonna play them like this? And then it kind of like flipped the switch. You know, the Timberwolves started taking advantage of the fact that offensively the Nuggets have no real answer for Anthony Edwards or Julius Randle. Honestly, they don't have an answer for anybody on that team, if we're being for real. You know, and then defensively, the Timberwolves just kind of locked in. You know, we saw Jaden Daniels was giving Jamal Murray hell after a certain point. Rudy Gobert is playing great defense as always. And it seemed like that Timberwolves team was just playing together, you know. And watching that game back, especially that fourth quarter, you know, you can point to the stats of Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic going like 1 for like 15 or some crazy stuff like that combined in the fourth quarter. I think like Jokic's only basket made was the dunk on Rudy Gobert. But like, you know, seeing that and then like seeing like how good the Timberwolves defense was on them, it was like, wow, you know, like, wow. And I think a bigger part of it isn't like I think we should have kind of expected the defense, but what I look at is the offense, you know. What I look at is how good that offense looked, you know, because it kind of like solved, it didn't solve, it said exactly what I thought was the issue with the Nuggets, and that is their lack of any sort of good defense. That team has nothing going for them defensively. You know, you can say there's like a couple of solid defenders. Like Aaron Gordon at one point was a really good defender, but his hamstrings are like cooked. Like they're Swiss cheese at this point. So he's not going to be able to like really hold up here. And then he's also got really bad matchups, right? You know, he's not going to be able to guard Anthony Edwards or a Bones Highland on the perimeter. You know, and then with his and then, yeah, while he's got the size for a guy like Naz Reid, he's just going to kind of get burnt by him or Julius Randle, right? Who else? Cam Spencer is good. That's his name, right? I don't think, is that his name? I keep saying Cam Spencer, but I don't know if I'm just getting him mixed with Cam Thomas. I'm saying the wrong guy. I've been saying Cam Spencer for some reason. Sorry. Oh my gosh. But no. While I try to remember him, Cam Thomas, as well. Cameron Johnson. What is going on? Sorry. Spencer Jones. That's who I'm thinking of. Spencer Jones, Bruce Brown, Cam Johnson, like Peyton Watson. Like, none of those guys are really like elite defenders. Even like none of them really are. Like, best you could probably point to is like Watson or Christian Brown, but neither one of those guys are really all that good defenders either. And I think that's a really big issue because this team already lacks rim protection. We know that, right? With Aaron Gordon kind of regressing defensively because of his injuries, and then Jonas Valanciunas and Nikola Jokic are like the worst defensive centers in the league, yo. Like, they're terrible. I wanted to talk about this earlier in the season, but I never got the Jonas Valanciunas signing. It was like kind of overrated as soon as I thought about it because I was like, that doesn't really do much for them. He's not really a good center, you know. When I see a guy like him, he's a solid rebounder, but that's about it. You know, he doesn't provide any spacing. He's not a good defender at all. You know, all he kind of does is just kind of come in, foul the other team a lot, and then come out, you know. And Nikola Jokic, we don't need to talk about his defensive woes. He's like one of the worst rim protectors I've ever seen, you know. Like it's crazy how bad of a rim protector he is. So when you see him surrounded by all these guys that really just aren't that good defensively, it's not like this team would work if they had a bunch of guys on the perimeter defensively wise that were like the Thunder or like the Celtics, who were really good at switching on the perimeter and were like hounding the ball and had some crazy great ball pressure, but they really don't. They really don't. And that's going to be such a big issue because they are not going to be able to contain a healthy Anthony Edwards or a healthy Julius Randle, you know? Like, Anthony Edwards is going to be able to get downhill literally anytime that he wants, especially if they put Jokic in that pick and roll. You know, Jokic likes to play a lot of likes to drop a lot in the pick and roll and then use his hands to swipe down, but Anthony Edwards, number one, has way too good of a burst, and he's one of the best pull-up three-point shooters in the league right now. And Jonas Valanciunas is worse, you know? It's like you get the same thing, but worse, and then you don't have anything good offensive either. So it's like looking at all that, it's like, man, I see this series, and I really don't know how the Nuggets come out this series with a win. You know, especially if the Timberwolves defense could just lock in and not even on some like hold them to horrific scoring and stuff like that, but just hold them to like below average, they're gonna pretty comfortably take this series, I think. I look at this team and it's like, yeah, Jokic and Jamal Murray are still great. You know, they're gonna give you work offensively. Even though Jokic and Jamal Murray did look like completely shut down in that fourth quarter in the clutch time by Rudy Gobert and Jaden McDaniels, like those two, like they shut them down completely. Like Rudy played some of the best defense of his life. You know, we've always seen him kind of struggle against these guys that are like bigger and can put their like shoulder in his chest, but he really just locked in. You know, he used his length to bother Jokic. He absorbed a lot of the contact. He didn't really let him take him out of position much. You know, Jaden Daniels just absolutely chasing over every screen. I saw one screen that Jaden McDaniels didn't get over, you know, and that was a screen where Jokic got had the little floater, had the chance for the floater to tie the game, but instead passed it out to Christian Brown. And you know, let's talk about that play actually. You see Jaden McDaniels, he gets caught on the screen. He's basically taken out of the play completely, and Jokic is rolling to the rim. You know, he has one of, if not probably the best floater game of all time. Right? So you see him getting there, and Anthony Edwards steps up, and it's like, come on. Like, you have to take that floater. You cannot pass it to Christian Brown. Honestly. Like, they bailed him out with that foul, because I think they could have, like, gotten a stop right there, even without fouling him. But I don't hate the foul, because he's also not a good shooter, right? And I'll talk about him in a second, because I have a lot of issues with him. But, you know, that type of situation, that's where you want Jokic to take that shot. You have no reason to pass that up to Christian Brown. I get it. You know, it might technically be a really good read, but not at the moment. You know, Jamal Murray made the right pass there. But yeah, like looking at that, it's like, man, you look at the rest of the series. It's like they don't have no answer for the Timberwolves right now. They have zero answer, like absolutely zero. Like you look at this Timberwolves team, and you can't tell me that they have any answers for these guys offensively. You know, when we saw a lot of that same high pick and roll in the clutch, you know, when Anthony Edwards would get the ball, they'd send a double team at him. And as long as Dante DiVincenzo's in that little wing slot right there, you know, and you've got like McDaniels in the corner or Ayo Dosunmu in the corner, you know, whatever the case may be, like you're going to have to live with Dante DiVincenzo, who's a terrific three-point shooter, by the way, taking those wide open threes, because they're not going to want to give up drives to the rim from Anthony Edwards, right? They're not going to want to do that. So it's just looking at the rest of this series, and it's like, man, you see this, and you really, I really just don't see a way that the Nuggets come out of here with a win. And if they don't, where do they go from here? You know, I think they have to really make some trades. I think you obviously keep your big three of Jokic, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon. Hope Aaron Gordon could get better health-wise, but I think everybody else could start shopping. Like, I'd have shopped Christian Brown. I have no idea why they paid him 5 years, $125 million. That is ridiculous. He is not that good of a player. You know, I've wanted to say this for a while. Like, he's just not. He doesn't really provide anything. Offensively, he's not a good spacer. He's not a good floor spacer. You see how many times teams could just put bigs on him and let them roam, and he doesn't punish them at all. Like, he's super athletic, whatever, and he's a good lob threat for his position. But, like, no. Like, you would much rather have, like, a KCP there, honestly. Like, if they had, like, KCP there still, completely different offense, like unguardable, basically, right? He just doesn't provide much, and then defensively, he's really not that good of a defender either. Like he's not some shutdown level defender. Like I see him get. I remember, like I'm a Russ fan, so I watched like basically all of the Nuggets games last year. He gets cooked a lot by like any like good perimeter player. Like they're just kind of cooking him, you know. And obviously, I'm not even just talking about like SGA. I'm talking about I saw him getting dogged out there by James Harden last year. It feels like he can't really like guard anybody well enough for him to be given not just this much money but this many minutes too. Like he's just not a good enough player, you know. Like I have a lot of issues with him. Like I feel like he's not the type, like he's not the good enough type of player that you're gonna want him like starting for your team. Like he shot 30% from 3 in the regular season. Like come on, man. Like come on. Like I get it, 6'6" guard, you know, super athletic, solid defender, but like this can't be your answer there. Like you have to really you have to really switch that. Like Peyton Watson, like I like him a lot, but you know, he was suffering from some injuries this year, but like, and he still hasn't played this series because of his injuries yet. But like, so I get it, but like, man, I feel like you gotta shop Christian Brown here so you can pay him, right? Cameron Johnson, I'm not mad at him. Like he's solid. I think Michael Porter Jr. would be better, but he also shot 1 for 6 from 3 in that game. So, you know, if he like doesn't shoot like that from 3, then they probably win that game, you know. And then he shot 2 for 7 in game 1, you know. Like he shot 43% from 3 in the regular season. So you're obviously thinking like, okay, maybe this is just a bad stretch from him, bad series, whatever. But it's like you got to really look at this team like outside of that title run, like Nuggets really got some things to do, you know. Like everybody was coming in this year like, oh, this is the best Nuggets team that Jokic has ever had. They're super good. They're gonna be right there with OKC. You know, people were talking about them like how they were gonna how San Antonio is this season. You know, right behind OKC, giving them work. You know, giving OKC fans a scare for that 1 seed race type of deal, but they just haven't. Yeah, you know, obviously it's because of health too. You know, you can say Nikola Jokic isn't fully healthy, but I really don't think this team has been that good this year. Obviously, I think they've had some bright spots, like Peyton Watson when healthy. Spencer Jones has been like a really cool pickup. Like he kind of appeared. He's honestly been their best defender too, which is crazy. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been pretty good for them this season, I think. He's been like probably their best shooter all year. You know, he was on fire for last game. But yeah, it's like, you know, you look at this team and it's like everybody came in with such high expectations of this team. They really just have not delivered in the way that you would want them to. And I really don't know how where you go from here with this Nuggets team, because the past couple seasons, other than that championship run, they've consistently fallen short against better teams in the Western Conference. Like consistently, like very consistently. And that was a real weird championship run because how bad the West was at that time. And now like the West is only getting better. Like we see the Thunder, Timberwolves, Spurs are getting way better. Like Thunder and Spurs are like, I think, a clear step ahead of the Nuggets, right? Lakers looked really good at the end of the season. Rockets, you know, I think the Rockets are clearly worse than them, but like, you know, Timberwolves are still always going to be in the picture, right? Like, and it looks like they might not even beat the Timberwolves. So now you're coming out of another season of another disappointing playoff exit, you know, when you're like, oh, maybe if we beat this team, we could have made it all the way, you know, maybe last year, okay, I get it. Like, they're like, okay, we went to 7 with the eventual champions. Like, you know, maybe you run that series back, you know, maybe we win and then we go on to win the ring, right? But now this year, it's like, okay, now you're just getting dogged on by the Timberwolves again, right? So yeah, it's very, 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 very. I'd be very concerned if I was a Nuggets fan, because now that championship window, I feel like it's starting to not fully close, but it's starting to get a little iffy. You know, it's starting to get very iffy. You know, injuries are going to keep piling up for guys. Jamal Murray's just had his best year, and if like might just be wasted with a first round exit now. You know, but that's why seeding's so important, man. You know, Thunder get to play the Suns and won't have to face, you know, Spurs or Nuggets or whatever until like 3rd round. You know, they're gonna play the Lakers or the Rockets, whoever wins that series. Like, Like, that's so easy, right? Spurs, they have to face Timberwolves or Nuggets next round, right? So yeah, it's just like if I'm a Nuggets fan, I'm a little worried, man. Shout out to Timberwolves though, like they were my pick to win this series. I think the series goes to 7 no matter what. I don't think Timberwolves are just gonna roll over the Nuggets for the rest of the series. And I also wanted to talk about Jaden McDaniels and the biggest aura gamble of all time. Just called the whole team out. He's like, none of them are good defenders. They have no good rim protectors, and he's not wrong. Like, he's objectively right. Like, that team has no good. The team has almost no good defenders, and even worse, they have no rim protectors. Like, you can say like certain guys on this team are good defenders, like Aaron Gordon when healthy, Spencer Jones, whatever, Christian Brown, whatever, but like they have no good rim protection right now. They have none, and that's like the most important part of defense. That's like so clear in the head, the most important part of defense. That's why guys like Chet and Wemby and Rudy Gobert are like just so clearly the best defenders in the league, because yeah, they're not the perimeter defenders, but like as far as rim protection goes, it's the easiest shot in the game. That's why you have to protect it the most. Almost every team in NBA history is looking to attack the rim, you know. So the fact that this team just has no good rim protection, now they're going against a team that thrives off of their rim pressure. It's like, they've got a real nasty thing for success here. But thank you guys for listening or watching, whatever you guys do. I'm happy everybody seemed to like the Detroit video. Hopefully this goes up. It's Tuesday, April 21st. Hopefully this goes up tonight. I don't really know yet. But yeah, thank you guys for listening or watching, and I will see you guys all later. Peace.